Let's talk about parasite cleansing. Do you need to do it? Yes. In a nutshell, yes. Everybody has parasites, and it is so easy to pick them up through our food, through our environment. If you're like me and you have, dogs or cats, I have 3 dogs. It is really, really easy to pick up things from our animals. And most importantly, it's important to remember that parasites are drawn to certain types of environments. So if your diet is acidic and there's a lot of stagnation within your body, the lymph is not moving that well, the blood's not flowing that well, then of course the parasites are going to be there because they're there to break down what the body cannot break down itself, especially in terms of digestion. And parasites are sneaky. They will hide out in tissues for years and years and years, for decades. And a lot of the symptoms that people are experiencing, like brain fog, fatigue, chronic aches and pains in their joints, it's not because their body is getting older. It's partly because of the inflammatory foods that they're eating, and also because parasites and pathogens are hanging out in those parts in the body. So, especially with like autoimmune conditions, which is what I help people with, is whenever we're dealing with an autoimmune condition, whatever that condition is, that's an indication of where the parasites might be hanging out, right? So, for say someone who's dealing with thyroid issues, we probably have parasites hanging out in the thyroid gland as well as other parts of the body. So, just something to keep in mind. So, one of the questions that I always get asked is, do I need to change my diet? Yes, you do. You need to change your diet because the parasites are there because you're feeding them. So if you're feeding them the kinds of foods that they love, sugary foods, lots of bread and pasta, meat and dairy and things like that, they're going to stay. If there's a lot of metals in your system, they're also going to stay because parasites feed on metals. And so it's important to understand that there is a step-by-step process that I encourage all of my clients to do. Usually one of the protocols that I work with, we do 20 days of prep where we're changing over their diet, getting a lot of nutrient dense superfoods into them, but also working on their gut health, starting to repair the damage to the gut, and helping to alkalize the body so that we create this environment within the body that the parasites don't like. And that way, by the time on day 21 we start doing parasite cleansing, it's a lot easier to start removing them. And I like to do multiple rounds. So usually I will do 2 rounds of a particular parasite cleanse. And then kind of assess and see where things are at. And then if there's, oops, oh, that always happens. If there are still a lot of symptoms going on for someone, then we'll definitely look at doing another round, but with different herbs. So every single time I do parasite cleansing with people, I like to cycle through different herbs. I don't like to do the same herbs over and over and over again because parasites they get used to certain types of herbs, and so they'll get used to it and it'll be harder to get rid of them. So that's what I like to do. A lot of times people ask me, how long is it going to take? It really depends on the person and their health situation. So if someone is dealing with multiple autoimmune conditions, maybe they're dealing with the C word, it's going to take a little more time, probably at least a year of going in and out of protocols. That doesn't mean that you're on protocols all the time, but month 1 is always a transition month where we're starting to change the diet and starting to alkalize the body, get the elimination pathways open, start to do some heavy metal detox. And then in month 1 and 2, we'll go a little bit deeper into like starting a parasite cleanse towards the end of month 1. And then, sorry, I got something in my eye. Starting a parasite cleanse towards the end of month 1 and doing a 7 days or 10 days on, and then taking a break from the anti-parasitic herbs and then going back in for a second round. And then assessing where things are at in month 3, and then planning the so-called attack for round 2. So, and then there's probably like 3 anti-parasitic protocols that I really love. And I always like to start on the gentlest one and then steadily kind of like, move up the ladder to the second protocol and then the third protocol. And that really comes about depending on where the person's at and how they're feeling in their body. And if this is something that they're ready to take on, because parasite cleansing, there's also an emotional component to it and a mental component to it, because the way that parasites work is they will infiltrate into our nervous system and our cells and tissues, and they start to influence our behavior. They start to influence cravings. And so, what tends to happen for a lot of people is that as they start parasite cleansing, they may find that they're feeling anxious or depressed. And those emotions are not theirs. They are actually belonging to the parasites that are within their system. And they're so good. These sneaky little buggers, they're so good at manipulating us. And so the reason that I say it really depends on where the person's at and what they're ready for is sometimes with parasite cleansing, it can get really intense emotionally. There can be a lot of stuff that gets stirred up. And sometimes what I'll do is I will do 2 rounds of parasite cleansing with someone, and then we'll just go into maintenance mode for a little while and then go back in. So that could be a month or 2. And then the person says, you know what, I'm ready to go back in. And then we go back in. We do the same prep, like making sure that the diet is alkaline, that the elimination pathways are open, do a little bit of heavy metal detox, and then going back in. So someone asked, do I need a binder? Generally, it's wise to have a binder, because what that's going to do is it's going to help to reduce some of the symptoms that you're feeling, some of the intensity. And it's also going to just make it easier to clear things out of your body as well. Now, if you are someone who is okay with doing colonics or enemas, I would definitely recommend doing that while you're on the journey as well, because it can just help to facilitate and move the things out, the parasites out of your system, is what I mean. And then the final question that someone asked was, what about heavy metals? So, like I said, parasites are attracted to heavy metals, they feed on heavy metals in our system. We can get heavy metals from our diet, from medications, from even personal care products. And so they can accumulate in our system. And this is why it's also really, really important to do heavy metal cleansing as a part of doing parasite cleansing. Now, there's a protocol that I recently started. I'm actually nearing the end of it. I'm on week 11 of doing like a total blood upgrade within my system. And as a part of that upgrade, what happens is that not only am I cleaning out my blood and opening up the circulation within my body, but along with that, what that does is help to remove pathogens, parasites, heavy metals, any spike proteins I may have been exposed to just from, there's a lot of stuff that's going on right now in the environment that unfortunately I can't speak freely on YouTube about, but if you know, you know. So anyway, I'm glad to be doing this blood upgrade because it's a way to clear all this stuff out. It also helps with microplastics. It's funny, a little while ago, I was out for a bike ride with my neighbor, and my neighbor's like, what about microplastics? I'm like, they're everywhere, because we, as human beings collectively, we insist on having all of this plastic in like all around us all the time, and especially in our food and personal care products. There's so much single-use plastic that we're dumping into the environment, and that plastic has to go somewhere. Eventually gets broken down into microplastics. Those microplastics end up in the atmosphere, so we're breathing them in. They end up in the waterways, so we're drinking them into our water if we're not being mindful. And on top of that, the other thing that tends to happen with microplastics is that if you are someone who does takeout, and you do takeout containers, and you're not mindful of where your food is coming from, and it's all wrapped up in plastic, like those microplastics are getting into your food as well. So that's one of the primary ways that microplastics get into the body. Every Tuesday and Saturday, I co-host a call with a couple of my regenerative health practitioner friends, and we do a deep dive into what it takes to clean up the blood system and an easy, simple solution that we have found as practitioners. And so you can always reach out to me through email, let me know, and I can send you the info for how to attend that call live.
Thanks so much for being here. I hope that you are enjoying the content on this channel. If you have not already done so, make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you are notified every single time a new piece of content goes up. There is new content that goes up every single week. If you're not already a part of my online community, go to my website, sign up for my newsletter so that you are in the know. On my newsletter, I'll be sharing all kinds of promos and discounts as they come up. To work with me, check out my monthly membership, Elevate, which is really focused on addressing parasites and the root causes of chronic illness within the body. If you are interested in holistic health and well-being, you have definitely landed in the right place. Thanks so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.